So I wanted to put together a really quick demo here to just show how we move VMs from VMware to FlexCloud. It's about as simple as it can get. We can move VMs from really any hypervisor to any other hypervisor, particularly any hypervisor to FlexCloud, but certainly any hypervisor to any hypervisor. Within here, we've got a number of registered hosts. We have our VHO2, which is going to act as a witness. It can see both of the VM environments in this case, and it's going to be there just going to provide command and control while the VMs are migrating themselves. I've got two Windows VMs that you can see right here. You can see I've got a simple vSphere environment set up, vCenter appliance, and two Windows VMs. Inside of FlexCloud in our lab, I've created as part of the migration basically a migration helper, and it's going to host the volume until we're ready to do the cutover, essentially is how that works. And you can see that is registered right here. We've got our two Windows VMs, our witness server, and our helper VM inside of FlexCloud. When we go over to our migration operations, we can actually see that we've already launched this. It's already staged up some of the things which I'll quickly breeze through. And you can see that if I go right to the top, it identified the access node. You can see each of the steps that it had to undertake, verified compute, did all the hardware configuration, verified the storage. You can see the volume details. It found that. Coming over from VMware again, network configuration, what are we going to do? How's it going to be configured? Those sorts of details, right? And so all the way down to where we're standing here waiting for a VMware approval or migration approval. And so if we want to see like what's actually happening with the migration session, I'll quickly look at the configuration, just point out that this tool uses a YAML-based configuration to instruct the migration recipe on what to do. Simple set of instructions, a little bit of code. The good news is that you can repeat using this, build it once, use it everywhere, right? And you can also group these together so you can have a number of different migration operations and then launch them all. No problem. You don't need to redo this a million times or do it serially. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. So our migration session gets stood up, and you can see this host is being replicated over to the helper VM volume. We have 90 gigabytes right here being synchronized. I think it's already done. Actually, it took just a few minutes. And I may be able to see, yeah, it took 4 minutes to synchronize 90 gig. It's obviously fast because it's local. But anyways, inside of here, you can see the migration rate that you're getting. You can see what data's been reduced as part of the compression factor that's built into this. And also you can see down here for each volume, if there are multiple volumes, they'll be listed here. You can actually see how much data has been synced, what's the total changes that have happened since the migrations happened, how much is outstanding and remaining, right? So if we were to go into this VM and say download a really big file or something, it would, which I won't do right now. Actually, there's no point in that. But you would actually see this creep up, and it would synchronize that, right? So so if this were a production system on the source, there's no reason that you couldn't stand this up and let it just sync continuously, and then you could pick a time to do the migration at your leisure, right? So it's a SQL database or it's a mission critical application or something like that. Set up the replication, get it going. It's not using VMware snapshots. It's not going to overload the system. It's literally using a filter driver to be able to pick up IOs to the base disk. After it's synchronized the base disk, it's intercepting all those changes that are coming in and writing them across. So the two volumes look exactly the same in pretty much near real time. Right? I think in this case, we set up a synchronization window, a resync window of like 30 seconds. You could do it synchronously. You could do it in like 0 seconds. I want them matching. Provided you have the bandwidth to be able to do that, no problem. But you may not want to do that. You may want to just periodically sync them up because you may pick a time and you say, okay, well, mission critical applications are going to run, they're going to sync. When we're ready, we do the cutover. So if we go back to the migration operations window that we were at before, you can see right here we're waiting for this final synchronization and trigger cutover, right? And it's waiting for you to approve it. You can set up an approval window and say, like, this is when I want to start it. This is when it's going to happen, and after it's like set to run, it'll execute, right? But we're not going to do that. We're going to approve it right now. Yes, great. So it's going to do a final synchronization. It's all recorded. There's a nice report you can get out of this at the end of it, so it shows certifiably what happened. So we're waiting for the synchronization to happen, the final syncs, and it's doing that. Not much to synchronize. We're going to prepare the compute cutover, so we should be able to go right back over to our FlexCloud environment and see, at some point you will see the Windows VM show up and this helper VM go away. That's what's going to happen. And the only reason the helper VM is there is because it's literally hosting the volume until the migrated VM is ready to be finally created and duplicated over. It's the only reason that's done that way. We're going to keep, we do have as part of this to shut down the source VM after the migration is done. So we'll open this up and kind of keep an eye on this as it goes. And this part takes a little bit. It's got to install the necessary drivers and other things so it can run inside of the FlexCloud environment. And this just takes a minute or two. So it looks like it's prepared the compute cutover. It's installed all the drivers, and it's waiting for migration session to complete. So we should see that Windows VM arrive here any moment and be created. And the remote desktop to that VM, that source VM is shutting down. The target VM is being created, and here it is. And obviously, it did not preserve the host name from VMware. So the host name that's inside of the host has to actually match what you want this VM name to be. But that's not such a big deal because we can go in here and we can look, and it's starting Windows now. So we could always rename this VM to match what the source VM name was in VMware. And again, that source VM name was sclab VM2 Verge 01. You know, provided that you have the appropriate host name, that's what the target VM name is going to be. We can also tune that. We can certainly tune that and make that be whatever you want it to be for each VM migration. But here you can see it's just going to take a second. It's usually when the VirtIO driver is loading. The first go around just takes a moment, and here we are. This VM is working. Now I do want to point out that I was disconnected from my remote desktop session to that. So previously I was connected to this Windows server as it existed inside of VMware. It is now in Verge. It's not running in VMware. Okay, you can see that right here. I'm looking at the console in FlexCloud right now, and if I open up remote desktop to the same IP I was in before, let's see if I could type the password correctly. Whoops. Yes, I can. All right. And I am logged in. This VM is exactly as it was before. You'd never know that it had been migrated. So if we look back at our migration tool, we can see that the entire system was migrated completely. The source VM is unchanged, everybody. So you got to note, like if we find anything weird and we got to go back, we could shut down the target VM inside FlexCloud and restart this source VM and nothing's changed. Provided obviously that the application data hasn't changed, it would be kind of a no loss return. All right, no problem. If we go ahead and look at these migration sessions, you can see here that that migration session has ended. Okay, nothing more really to do here. If I want to, I can go down and take a look at the migration report and get full reports on every migration that happens. Gives you all the information about source, destination, all the details, so you can see what happened. Total sync time was 4 minutes and 50 seconds, 90 gig again. You know, impressive, I guess, but you know, not a huge amount of data. But you know, you can actually walk through the entire timeline here, and I think the entire system, you know, was there running for minutes. You know, to be fair. So if we go back and look at our registered host, you can see now that that helper VM is no longer registered in the system; it's gone, and the source system is no longer online and has been deregistered from the system. So it's not eligible for migration again. We would go back and reset up the migration to redo that if we had to. But again, we have made no changes to the source. The source is exactly as it was. So anyway, I hope that this kind of shows you how simple it would be for us to migrate any VM from anywhere to anywhere, in particular any VM from VMware to SnowCap FlexCloud. Thank you.